Hi, folks. You're with Tacitus today at your channel, and thank you for joining this radio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about a subject I raised in a video a few days ago. This is a former work colleague, and he's I don't know, early to mid 50s now. He's got retrenched, but he got a very good payout, so he's done all right. So he doesn't really need to work, and he can take his time sort of looking for another job, but he doesn't want to sit around and prune the roses in the garden or something like that. He wants to get out and do something. He's a pretty fit guy, so he's out maybe not trying as hard as someone that sort of had a mortgage and all that sort of thing, but he's out there looking for a gig, and he takes the view that he's got a lot of skills and accomplishments, achievements to sell. He's a good professional. I've worked with a guy. I can attest. He's a pretty bright guy, conscientious, and all that sort of good stuff. So I would have just sort of, in my view, at least, any company out there should I would have thought snap him up pretty quickly. But he talks about the travails, and he doesn't talk about how tough the interviews are, or that they're rigorous and difficult questions, or that he's up against tough competition or anything like that. Far from it. He talks about it completely the opposite way, that he's rather disillusioned that he's being interviewed by teenage Indian girls. Can you tell us about yourself? And he's snotty Chinese girls, young Chinese women. He's going through all that. We can barely understand them, and what are they doing? Because the HR Asia Pacific office or something is in the setting for this is Australia, by the way. That the HR Pacific office, Asia Pacific office, is set in China or somewhere like that. So, but even here in Australia, he says the chances now of, certainly in the earlier rounds of interviews, the chances of talking to a white man are about zip. But more importantly, talking to anyone who's qualified to be doing the interview. So he's at sort of vice president type level, and yet he's being interviewed by snot-nosed little Asian or Indian girls who haven't no idea. I mean, they're absolutely reveling in the idea that they can tell Whitey what to do, and Whitey better bow before them, and I will not pass you through to the next round of interviews unless you tell me that you are, and this sort of, you better show me some respect. And so he's got to go through all that sort of stuff. But if he does get to see somebody white, it's going to be some snot-nosed young HR lady who's all been through the NGO machine, all sort of thing. All straight white males are evil, particularly the sort of previous generation. They're all Hitler, and he has to get past things like the gender and race quotas and all that sort of thing. But he says it's so rare that he actually gets to talk to anyone who either understands their job or understands the job requirements of the role that he's applying for. So in his perspective, at least, he's talking just to a series of unqualified amateurs, and some of them are just ideological hacks, like the folks from HR and so on, that believe their mission in the world is to spread social justice and shit like that. So he's quite disillusioned with this thing that his skills and his achievements and his abilities and his accomplishments really don't count for anything anymore. And on top of that, he's viewed with hostility simply for being a straight white male. In fact, the greater his achievements, the more he's seen as some sort of something bad in some way, and that's how, or at least that's his perception. Now, I've experienced that, not recently. We're talking years ago, but I've experienced those sorts of things. And the people I meet, in business when I'm out, going out doing, going to meetings and things like that, the people I meet, some of them I'm aghast at how fucking incompetent these people are. They've only got the job through affirmative action and race and gender quotas. You wouldn't hire them to sweep the floor or something. But the effect of all this, and I was thinking about it, the effect of all this is that given merit no longer counts or matters, then people who black and brown immigrants and so on, people who have minimal qualifications or some qualifications from some third world shithole, they're actually much more employable now. And equally, and I've spoken to HR directors on this on a in a social situation, where they say, well, we can't hire well qualified, high quality, high capability people. We can't do that because we've got so many low quality people now. If we hire anyone high quality, it's going to make the low quality people feel bad about themselves. So we can't do that. We now have to hire more low quality people, be they white or anything else. It doesn't really matter. But there's a higher proportion of lower quality people among the non-whites than the other way around. So this is of course insanity, commercial insanity. I mean, they don't teach this at business schools. Here's your business class. You've got to hire the biggest fucking morons you possibly fucking can. That is your job when you go out in business. You bankrupt that company. You drive it into the fucking ground. And if you don't want to do it, you are Hitler. So they're obviously not teaching that in business schools. So, but this is this. I'm thinking of one now. I'm picturing her face. That HR lady, who's, by the way, the HR director of quite a large outfit, and she's quite matter of fact about it. No, we only hire morons where we are, and now they can do it because that enterprise has an oligopoly and a cartel pricing power, so they can do it. A business having to face some competition, of course, couldn't do that. They couldn't specialize in hiring morons. But it seems to be the situation. So if you're an intellectually challenged black or brown, lesbian or something, something like that, you tick a few minority boxes, then you're actually far more employable. Maybe not in the top dollar jobs, but you are far more employable than this former colleague of mine who is a high achiever. I mean, he's some of the incomes he's been on has been $500,000 a year, and it's meritorious. He's a hardworking, bright guy. Puts together good deals and so on. So he's probably worth that type of money, given the field that he's in. But these other people, you can still get utter morons on $300,000 and $400,000 a year simply on race and gender hiring. But given, I wouldn't say he's having a struggle, because I'm not sure he's really trying as hard as he could. But this guy he's inclined to sort of not put maximum effort into it. If he's got to deal with a bunch of Indian or Chinese, snotty women, or even young white women who are too stupid, they're totally unqualified, they're giving attitude, they're playing stupid social justice, snot-nosed little girly games and so on. He's thinking, do I really want to go through this? Now, I sort of deal with that too in the business I've got to share in. Some of the meetings I go to, those same type of people, not the same people, but those people with those sort of attitudes and views, horribly over promoted, black and brown women and so on. And you kind of have to put up with them because they demand respect, like a snot-nosed little schoolgirl teenager stamping her foot, demanding respect. This sort of, and then having a little tanty if she doesn't get it. Those sorts of things. Those sort of people are in the majority. In fact, I wonder whether there's a special place where they teach, more to white girls here, but others too, where they teach bipolar disorder and say, well, if you can qualify as having bipolar disorder, we will give you an executive job or something. I wonder whether there's a place like that sometimes, given the amount of bipolar type women I come across in business. Again, particularly the businesses that have monopolies, oligopolies, cartel pricing power, that sort of thing. So now coming back to the guy, he's tending to give up, and he's pointed out that why should he have to go through 20 interviews? Nearly all people that haven't got a clue what his job is supposed to be, or don't know what questions to ask him, or how to evaluate his skills, or whatever. Why should he go through 20 interviews when the affirmative action hire has to meet none of that rigorous criteria and can get the job in one interview or two interviews? So, I mean, and that's a fair question, by the way. So it indicates, certainly in my view, how far it's gone in terms of discriminating against not only straight white males, and but discriminating against anyone who's got above average capacity or capability or achievements and so on. And he's made a point here, which also I've noticed, and so I kind of agree with that. Straight white males who are high achievers and well qualified, they've worked hard to get where they are. They're quite self-assured. Now, that sort of thing is perceived, widely perceived today. So if you have that self-assurance, you're effectively an enemy of the people. You're Hitler, and that comes back to what this HR director was saying to me, this female HR director, that they don't employ people who are any good because that'll make the other people they've hired, all these affirmative action hires, it'll make them feel bad about themselves. So the way to make these people have a high self-esteem is to keep on hiring dumber people and dumber and dumber and dumber, just so they can have, this artificial fantasy of high self-esteem, that there's always someone dumber than them around. But they're sort of, it's a real race to the bottom there. But it really, in my view at least, it demonstrates that the West has gone utterly insane and mad. That a low IQ, IQ 80 peasant from the third world is actually more employable in the West now than a high achieving, high capability, very well educated, merit-based straight white guy. Now, if that's not a tragedy for any economy, then I don't know what is. And it's a disaster that we're screaming to the cliff at high speed, and the people that are implementing it and people that are supporting it and furthering it are basking in what they see as the sea of unending virtue. And really, it's the West engaged in an act of complete and utter self-destruction. You've been with Tacitus today at your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.